6 years of hardship, experimenting with different methods, had come to nothing. Now he would go it alone in his quest to break the cycle of samsara.
What the Buddha attempted next was something new, a middle way between the extremes of self-indulgence and the rigours of self-mortification.
Moderation would be his radical new approach from now on. The Buddha's change of tack would bring greater clarity to his examination of the human condition. The Buddha believed that all we can know for sure is how we experience the world, and that it's our minds that determine what kinds of experience we have. Using his meditation skills, he interrogated the internal workings of his own mind, and what the Buddha discovered contradicted the assumptions people held about the permanence of the soul. He realised that the external world as we experienced it was constantly changing, and that we were constantly changing too. Our material form, our sensations, our mind, our consciousness, our character, all in perpetual flux. This realisation exposed a fundamental flaw in the Buddha's thinking. All efforts to identify a permanent self were futile, because a permanent or independent self did not exist.
When the Buddha is looking at how the process of his suffering was developing, he started looking at it very much like a doctor. And he started looking at a cause, and he starts realizing that everything is fleeting, is changing. There's nothing that he can put his finger on as a cause, and starts realizing that actually the cause is the identification with an I. There's no such thing which you can just pinpoint at a certain point in time and say, okay, this is it. But it changes in the next moment. So I think that realization that everything is impermanent leads to the idea that permanently existing entity of a soul is a concept.
Just explain to me, because I can't quite get my head around this. What does it mean to have no self? What did he mean by that?
I'll give you an example. For example, let's say, okay, Bettany, when were you born? And you say, I was born on so-and-so date and so-and-so year. And I'd say, really? Weren't you born 9 months before that? You say, yes. And I'd say, weren't you and your mother and father before that? If I took your mother out of you, you're not Bettany anymore. Bettany is made of non-Bettany elements. Bettany is the sunshine, the earth, England. And then you suddenly start realizing that there was not a single point when Bettany came about. So in Buddhism, we don't talk about creation, we talk about manifestation. It's not denying that you exist. We exist. But it's denying that we have an intrinsically independent entity.
The Buddha believed the idea of a permanent self wasn't part of the solution. It was actually at the root of the problem, because it made us selfish, self-absorbed. It created insatiable craving that enslaved us to transient earthly concerns and kept us trapped in samsara. To rid oneself of this deep-seated delusion of self was the way to liberation.
That realization allows you the freedom not to get caught in the I, me, mine, which is really the fundamental cause of suffering. And then he says, oh, then there is a way to overcome suffering. That's a sort of aha, wow. So his teaching was based around rediscovering your nature, which is non-self nature.
The Buddha's self-analysis revealed the answer. If we could extinguish the delusion of self, we would see things as they truly are, and our suffering would end. We had the capacity to take control of our lives.
The Buddha seems to have recognised that there's a plasticity to our minds and characters. Living in the world with the right attitude is fundamentally empowering. Basically, know yourself and the world is yours. It's cognitive psychology, 25 centuries before the phrase is invented.